Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And with the Burning Crusade Classic on the horizon, we are all going to have to make that decision on what class we are going to be playing, what specialization, and what role we want to be going after. So in this video, I wanted to go over 7 things that you need to know about Restoration Druid in TBC if you want to avoid some embarrassing instances or just potentially really be a master of the class. And that's going to be the main purpose of this video, as I've been testing the Burning Crusade Classic. I played it originally, wasn't very talented at it in its original state, but now going back to relive it through a new lens of expertise that I've developed over time, I'm going to be really diving deep into Resto Druid specifically for myself. So what I did was I've compiled 7 things that I either caught me off guard, and so you don't have to get caught off guard by them, and some things that you'll just want to know in general, good information, so that when you're jumping in, you're going to be as prepared as possible. So let's look at number 7. Coming in at number 7 might be pretty basic here, but Dispels and Resurrection. So in the Burning Crusade, you are not able to remove magic. You can only remove curse, poison, and you can use abolish poison. If you want to save a keybind, you can just use abolish poison instead of remove poison. They're the same mana cost, except abolish poison will just continually dispel more poison effects afterwards. So if you're like me and you want to reduce your keybinds, I would give that as a little bit of a tip. You don't need remove poison, just go for abolish poison. But the main weakness of not being able to remove magic is that you will need somebody else in the group that can. You'll need a priest or a paladin. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling quite a lot, and this is going to be more notable in instances like PvP, where you won't be able to remove Polymorph and you won't be able to remove Frost Nova. So you're going to really need to be ahead of the game here and realize that, because you might be mashing your Dispel keybind and it's not working and you're wondering why. And when we get through more of the 7 things for Restoration in TBC, you'll see that you have a couple of other options to deal with it. And then Resurrection, of course, which is I'm going to assume comes across a little bit more basic for a lot of veteran players. However, if you're coming back to TBC, it's been a while, or you didn't play it originally, or you didn't play Classic in its re-release or its original state, you cannot resurrect. So if someone dies in your party after you've cleared some trash monsters or a boss, you won't be able to resurrect anybody without using a long cooldown battle res, which requires that max rank a Flintwood seed. So you want to be picking up those. Running out of those in your group and not be able to battle res is going to be a bit embarrassing. So make sure you've got those in your bag as much as possible. And this is something that if you're the only one that can res, you only want to use it in an emergency. But if you can find another person in your group that can resurrect, something like maybe a shaman, then you would want to save it to use it on them to make sure that then they can res the rest of the group, whether it be a raid or a dungeon. And this is number 7. Moving forward to number 6, we're going to be looking at BARKSKIN. And this, again, it really was a bit jarring at first for me, because you've been playing retail for a really long time, basically every expansion, right? And BARKSKIN, for the longest time, you've just been able to activate whenever you want. However, in the Burning Crusade, it will remove your shapeshift. So if you're tanking a monster, or you're in bear form or calf form or whatever have you, and you want to activate BARKSKIN to start reducing damage, it's going to take you out of that shapeshift effect, which can make you sometimes more vulnerable, and it is something to be aware of. Moving in at number 5, we're going to be looking at shapeshifting just as a whole. It's a very high mana cost. The Burning Crusade is very much so the opposite in terms of the way that you play than the current retail iteration of the game. In retail, you're about maximizing your actions per minute. You want to be pumping out as many things as you can. But in the Burning Crusade, you generally don't. You want to be very meticulous with where you're timing and where you're placing things, because shapeshifting has such a high mana cost. You do want to be aware of that. However, it does come with significant benefits in the Burning Crusade, especially towards PvP. This can benefit you in PvE as well. You'll be able to shapeshift out of polymorph effects. So you may have experienced in more recent iterations of the game where if you get polymorphed, you're stuck, you're a sheep. But in the Burning Crusade, you can cancel that sheep after you've already been caught to remove yourself from it with shapeshifting. You can also avoid mana burn, and mana burn is going to be very prevalent in the Burning Crusade, especially in PvP. I think there's a couple bosses as well that have a mana burn effect, but definitely more notable in PvP. You'll be able to jump into bear form to avoid mana burn from priest, warlock, and hunter, and there's going to be a lot of tactics in PvP around mana burning, so make sure you're using bear form to dodge those. However, make sure you're not just constantly going in and out of it, because you're going to run out of mana very quickly. Coming in at number 4, we've got Wild Charge. Wild Charge, in its current retail version of the game, is a charge and a root, and you can use it to jump to allies. Now, in the Burning Crusade, it's only usable in bear form, but it comes with the added benefit that it can interrupt casts. So as we spoke earlier, you don't have the ability to dispel magic effects, but when talented into Wild Charge in the Feral specialization, you can utilize Wild Charge to interrupt a polymorph cast and prevent it from happening in the first place. And you're going to want to utilize this obviously in PvP, but sometimes in PvE as well. If there's no interrupts available, you can come in as a backup interrupt, and Druid in PvE is generally a fill role where you're a backup of everything, jack of all trades, but you also kind of a master of most of them. And as Restoration Druid, you can come in really clutch with the Wild Charge specifically. And this really caught me off guard that you could interrupt spells with it. And I thought that it would be useful for you to know as well if you're picking up the class in the Burning Crusade. Coming in at number 3, we've got LifeBloom, and LifeBloom in the Burning Crusade, with a new spell at the time, is easily the most powerful heal. I would argue it's the most powerful heal in the game, considering it has no cooldown. This is something that you're going to need to maintain on your tank pretty much at all times. Your main goal is to maintain LifeBloom on the tank, and in PvP, your main priority should be to maintain LifeBloom. I had some habits from playing on the beta of trying to go after Rejuvenation and then trying to combo together with Swiftbend for a big instant heal. Generally, it was just better to make sure that LifeBloom was on the target, and it can stack up to 3 times. So maintaining it at a 3 stack, and also because it has the added benefit of when it's dispelled, it does a burst of healing, which can protect you against a lot of strategies that will be used against you in PvP to remove heal over time effects. So LifeBloom is a really big priority. You want to make sure that this spell is up for as much as physically possible, unless maybe there's nothing going on and you're just wasting your time and you're spending too much mana. Now, coming in at number 2, we're going to be looking at hit rating. So hit rating is returning, and spell pen as well. So if you're in PvE, you're not going to really need to worry too much unless you, for some reason, don't have a balanced druid bringing Insect Swarm to reduce the hit chance of the boss. But I left it here as just a note that you're going to need 215 hit rating in PvE for a 100% cap against raid bosses. In PvP, you want to aim for about 130 spell pen. It's going to be important for landing Cyclones. It's going to be important for landing Entangling Roots. It's going to be important for maintaining your Moonfire and your Insect Swarm if you're running Dream State or just running a standard Resto Druid build for PvP. You want to be having that spell pen because it really, really, really sucks when your spell misses. It is just game breaking. It can absolutely end a game for you. So you want to be aiming for these goals, and then no more than 8% hit rating. There are classes that can reduce your chance to hit. There's other classes that can increase their chance to hit. But from my research that I've done, it seems around 8% hit rating is kind of the magic number when it comes to PvP, to just make sure that the most amount of your spells are going to be landing, and you're not going to be having that mishap where if you didn't cycle on the rogue, then you just died in PvP. It can be a really awkward time, and these stats haven't been in the game for quite a long time. So if you're coming back or it's just your first time coming through, this is going to be very important that you get to these caps, and it's coming in at number 2. Finally, coming in at number 1 for things that you need to know about Restoration Druid in TBC is going to be mana regeneration. You have a tool called Innervate. At the moment, it's likely bugged. I would have to assume it's bugged because it pretty much gives you full mana nearly instantaneously, but it is a very important priority to get your Innervate on cooldown as frequently as possible. Mana is the most important resource. You're going to run out of it. You're going to want to do everything that you can to not run out of mana, whether it be PvP or PvE. You can also do this by downranking your spells. You'll have rank 1 through whatever the cap is for your spell. So if you need to down rank, potentially if a target is spamming Purge, you can bait them into spamming Purge into a lower rank Rejuvenation if you needed to. And you can down rank to save mana and conserve mana. And also, if you've run out of mana as sort of an emergency state, utilize those lower ranks of spells. And then mana per 5, which is just mana you get every 5 seconds, and spirit regeneration, which is then the 5-second rule, where if you wait 5 seconds to casting a spell, you'll start regenerating more mana over time. So you can get these kind of like 5-second rule tick heals in. You will likely not be able to utilize this too much in PvP at the start, because your stamina and your resilience are going to be very low and people are going to get bursted really hard. So this is likely, again, going to be more tailored towards PvE. But as the game slows down throughout this PvP seasons in TBC, the 5-second rule and your mana conservation becomes easily the most important component to playing a Restoration Druid whatsoever. Because if you're spamming, you're out of mana, you can't do anything, game's pretty much over for you, PvE or PvP, which is why mana regeneration came in at number 1 for me. You don't want to have any of those embarrassing mishaps, as I've already had just through testing it on the beta. I hope that this list was useful to you. If it was, please leave it with a thumbs up. If you haven't and you enjoy this type of content for Classic WoW and Retail WoW, then hit the subscribe button. I'm doing my best to keep this channel as an up-to-date info database, basically, so that you can come here, quickly listen to a video, and then take away the important little gems for your own gameplay and your own experience at home. If there are any other classes that you would like me to go over, or specializations that you would like me to go over on this channel, leave them down in the comments below, as I am looking to expand this style of video. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.